What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Working on the Forester in the Garage. If you guys were here last episode, you know we did some modifications to the power and electrical system in the Forester. Well, that was preparing for today, because today we are installing these. I've been storing these. You might have seen these in the background of some of the videos for a long time, but the time has finally come since we now have our proper power setup to install these. These are Hella Rally i 4000s. They are the big boys that everyone runs on their rally cars back in the day. And we're going to be installing them on my Forester because, well, we have to. It's a Subaru. It's got to have the rally lights. Today we'll actually be replacing some of my lights already on the car with those 4000s. We'll be replacing these stock Hellas we have right here. These are the Blackmagic 500s. These are great lights. They were nice budget lights from a bumper, but I'm going to do something else with these lights and replace them with these 4000s, because these 4000s are 100 watts a piece and those are only 50 watts a piece. So we're pretty much doubling the light on our bumper, and they just look really cool because they're the big rally lights. So what I want to do first though is I actually want to do a little bit of comparison. We're only going to do it here in the garage, but what we're going to do is we're going to turn on these 500s and see what they look like. And then once we have the 4000s on, we can go ahead and compare them. So let's go ahead and see what these 500s look like. And those are the 500s on the front bumper with the headlights on. And there we go. Those are the lights we currently have on the Forester. Once we put the 4000s on, we'll turn those on again and see how much of a difference they really make. But anyways, talking about the 4000s, let's go ahead and take a look at them. So opening up the 4000s, you do have to do a little bit of installation, which I'll do in just a second. But you also come with an instruction manual, which is helpful because you have to assemble it yourself. And then it comes with all the fun stuff. So obviously we have the Hella 4000, iconic 4000 cover. So these are what will be running for probably on the road for quite a bit, just because these lights do get really bright, so I can't really run them all the time. Well, obviously you shouldn't run your off-road lights all the time anyways, but I won't be doing that. And then in here you have a big old 4000 itself. So I went with 2 Euro beams because you can get pencil beams which are very long range. I wanted something that would provide a little more flood, but I didn't want a fog light, so you can get these Euro beams, which is a nice little mix in between the two. So I went with 2 Euro beams just to test out and see how they will work. Obviously I'm going to maybe do some more with lighting, so these will supplement the rest of the lighting pretty well. As I said, you do need to kind of assemble these because they are missing the mounts and your wiring is actually in the bag, so you got to do that. And then other than that, that's pretty much all you get. You do also get the bulbs. I went with the Eurobeam with the park light, and I'll explain why I went with the park light in a little bit of a second. But then you also get the H1 100 watt bulb, which these are awesome. You can go ahead and obviously replace these as you want or as need be, but they're the H1 bulb. So let's go ahead and do our assembly. And well, once you unpacked everything, this is what you get. So you get your mounting plate, you get your inner mounting plate, which you're going to have to disassemble to install, this rubber that goes here, as well as your wiring, and then some nice knobs that will actually allow you to adjust it when it's on the car, and the actually mounting bolt. It also comes with a nut and a lock washer, which I just put off to the side. And then obviously the bulbs here. As I said, the 100 watt H1, you can get a 130 watt if you want to really push it. I'll probably do that once these burn out, but I'm just going to run the 100 watts because they came with it. And then also the park light, but the park light we're actually not going to be using. I'm using some amber park lights for my car because I actually replaced the park lights in the headlights to use the amber ones, so I actually will have amber across the whole front of the car. So I wanted to match the amber lights in my Hellas with the ones in the car, so we have a full row of park lights that are orange. Now for assembly, I did put on gloves so I'm not getting my oily hand everywhere and wrecking the bulbs because it will burn them out. But really, to disassemble it, all you got to do is just undo these across the whole metal plate, and then once this is undone, you can actually just disassemble it. There is still the glass is still assembled to the reflector, but this is kind of like the outer shell where you install everything. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this ring off, and then we can go ahead and install everything on this headlight. And then once you got the screws undone, you can go ahead, take the ring off. As you can tell, it's made from metal. They just wanted to let you know just in case you forgot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and flip it over like that. And essentially you get the reflector and then the housing itself. I'm just going to put the housing over here as we install the bulbs. So to install the bulbs, pop these up. Pretty typical bulb installation. Then all you do is you take these over, you make sure you line up the little points and it will slide right in there. Go ahead and then clip it back down so that you don't lose that. And then there's that one. Then to install your park bulb, you're actually going to need your harness now. The park bulb goes in this little guy right here. Just line it up and it will slide in like most park bulbs do, or any bulbs. They just got 2 connectors. Then all you got to do is go ahead and just push it into where the park bulb goes, which is right down here. There you go. Then all you need is to connect this guy here. This is your main, and then some ground. This guy actually is kind of funky because they want you to put it here, but what I've found is I need to widen this to put it on. So I just widened it with some needle nose pliers, and then I take one of these little hammers and just press it on and give it a nice little tap. So now that we're assembling the base plate, what we're going to do is we're just going to move this off to the side here, and we're going to run our wires through the housing. And then once you have your wires running through the housing, it's time to kind of install this plate here. So this plate, you want this rounded part right here. And I'm just going to move it like this. It's kind of tricky to do even with 2 hands. And then you're going to take this piece, make sure you have that rubber there because that is like going to save this or hold it in there. So you're going to take this and put this under here while holding this metal plate. And then you're going to take these thumb screws for adjustment and sandwich it all together. But before you go ahead and do that to the other side, you're going to want to put your mounting screw in here. So what you're going to do is you're just going to spin it around and position it so that you can get this through. Have this through, put this back around, and then you're going to screw in or thread in your other thumb screw on the other side. And then your housing should look like this. You should have your metal plate here, your mounting bracket, your rubber, and then the mounting screw here. And then all you got to do is put it all together. So I'm going to slide this over top here, and then flip it over, and then do up the outer ring, and then we're done. Do that one more time and you've got your pair of Hella 4000s. So next we're going to do is we're going to put some connectors on here because it's always nice to be able to disconnect and reconnect when you need to rather than soldering them on. So what I'm actually using is I'm using some Deutsch connectors. I'm using the 4-pin ones because you can get 3-pin, but you can't get 3-pin that work for the 12 gauge wire that we're using because I can theoretically pull 260 watts with these if I put the 130s in them. So I want some thicker gauge wire to run to my relay box. So I will be using some 12 gauge wire. That being said, I could only find 4-pin Deutsch connectors and I need 4 pins because we have the park light on here. So I'm going to be essentially soldering, or not soldering, you crimp these on. I'm going to be crimping on some Deutsch connectors. I'm actually going to be cutting it just to where this black piece is because I don't need all this length of cable. So I'm going to go ahead, slap these on, and then we can go ahead and talk about mounting these to the car. And there we go. We have our Deutsch connector on our lights. This is actually the first time I've ever used these. And after you get them figured out, they're actually not that bad. So we've got this end all plugged up. Obviously, as I said, we're only using 3 out of the 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue on this one right here so that it seals it. But yeah, there we go. We got both of them connected up. So now it's time to go tackle what's on the car. And as you know from last episode, we went in and put in this relay box. So this relay box is essentially what we're going to be wiring to because our stock lights, our lights actually not our stock lights, our old Hella 500s are running off of the stock harness, but we cannot do that with these because these are more than double. So what we'll be doing is making our own harness. So I'm not going to run through that because I still got to figure it out. But essentially what we're going to be doing, I think, is we're going to be just running power to the lights, and then once we have the power to the lights, we can just ground off of the chassis, and then we'll also have to make a separate part of the harness that hooks into the marker or the park lights for the car. So we'll actually be running 2 sets of wires to the car. I think what I'll actually be using, because we don't need 12 gauge for those park lights, is because I cut off so much wire off of the harness, off of the lights, I'm going to just use a little bit of this and wire it all into the harness. So I'm gonna figure out this harness and then I'll show you at the end what it looks like before we get it all plugged in and switch out our old lights with the new ones. And there we go. After too many hours, we finally have our harness in for these lights. As you can probably tell, I went ahead and I removed the front grille, which actually meant that I got to chop off the leads for these lights because, well, I wired them through the grille and there was no way to remove them without chopping them off. So that's exactly what it is I just removed them and chopped it off. So that means that I had much more access to play around with the front, and as you can see, I've actually tidied up this harness quite a bit. So this harness is running under the rad support and it has our Deutsch connectors here and here for each of the respective lights. And then it runs along here on this little ridge right here. And as you can see, I've zip tied them nice and tidy. And then our park light kind of runs under here and it actually steals the park light for the lower one because I don't use that, or sorry, this one right here, because I don't use that. I just use this one with the orange amber light, and then it runs the power and ground run here. Power runs to our switch box right here, and our relay box right up here. So that all is ran there, and then our ground runs to the same ground that our relay box is running. So everything is nice and tidy. The cables are a little loose here. I'm probably going to zip tie those. But other than that, everything is ran really nice and tidy, super clean. It just took a long time to do because I wanted to make sure that this was something that would last for a while because we're investing time putting in these connectors. Why not invest time in making a nice little neat harness? So with that being said, it's time to go remove the Hello 500 and attach the other ones. I'm pretty sure they have the same studs, so we should be able to just remove these and bolt those on. But I will have to see, maybe the stud on those are bigger because those are bigger lights, but let's go ahead and test it out. Well, that is pretty cool. They look awesome on this car. I swear I've measured it about 4 times when I was making sure these fit, and they would fit, but it is really, really close. So I'm putting on the grill first, but to put the grill on, I have to put the connectors on, and before I connect everything, I want to make sure that it works before I button up everything. So a little bit of change of plans, actually. We're gonna go ahead, plug our lights in and do a little bit of a test to make sure these all work. Then we will button it all up and do a little bit of a test to see how powerful they are. But yeah, we definitely have to do all this before we go ahead, put the grill in, bolt these down, and then realize that something's wrong. So let's go ahead and get this all together. Everything's plugged in, so let's go ahead and try it. Okay, first park lights. Oh yeah, we got park lights. Success! We have lights. Oh, it looks so cool with the grills on even. So with everything working, I guess we get to bolt it all up and then do one final test on it. And those are the new lights. I can actually feel the heat coming off of them. Also, it's draining my battery so fast that I have lights flickering. That out, I took the covers off and turned on the park lights. It looks so cool. The reflectors in there work really well. And there we go. We finally mounted our Hello 4000s to the front of the Subaru Forester. I think personally it's a huge upgrade compared to the 500s. The 500s were great. They're a great budget light, but I wanted to just do it a little bit more rally spec, and these are definitely one of the lights from that era, so I think they match the front end perfectly. And now that we got the park lights in, we'd be super overland with the orange lights in our main lights as well as our rally eyes. So there we go. That was kind of the big reason we put in that relay system, because if we did not have that relay system in there, there would be no way that car would be able to run those lights. As I said, 100 watts each. We can do 130 watts in each. And then I'm actually going to do something to my headlights pretty soon, so we can get a little more light output on those. And then don't worry about the 500s, because the 500s are going to get repurposed on the Subaru Forester somewhere. There's a reason I put that relay box. We got to use all the lights that we can. But if you guys want to grab some of these parts for yourself or for your build, or you have some questions about doing a build like this yourselves, you know where to go. Flat 4 Off-Road, we've got parts, we've got merchandise now, and by supporting Flat 4 Off-Road, you're supporting me and the channel. So that is going to be it for today's episode, and that is kind of it for the modifications here in the garage. We're going to head back out of the trail, maybe do a night run and test out these lights and see how they work. But that is it for today's video, so as always, peace out and stay humble.